Agent Azrael here, like always. We got an interview with Linda Hamilton and other people. Does it even matter? Linda.
Terminator Dark Fate was incredible. I was completely blown away.
So glad you liked
And
it.
Director, I think.
It's
I
such
missed it.
its legacy is so iconic, and honestly, a lot of people have wanted it to be considered untouchable. You know, for you
It
though,
is untouchable.
for you though,
But
like, what
there's
was
a lot of
like,
fuck-ups.
the biggest
Genesis,
motivation that
3,
that made you say,
Salvation.
"Screw it, I'm going to do it anyway."
They asked me. I love it, and I never thought that it had a good ending. You want it to have some kind of noble ending for those first 2 movies. And even though the first 2 movies felt complete, I really did feel like there was a question at the end of it of what happens next. Sarah Connor says, I don't know what the future holds. And this is the movie that's supposed to answer that question. And I think all those other movies did it in a way that it wasn't Jim's answer to the question, and it wasn't Linda Hamilton's answer to the question.
It's almost been 20 years.
I thought that there was an opportunity
since
to show that.
Judgment Day.
So
91.
I wanted to do it. Who wouldn't want the chance?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess you could worry about fucking it up, but I'm not a deep thinker.
My name is Sarah Connor. August 29, 1997. It was supposed to be Judgment Day.
The music, man.
But I changed the future. Saved 3 billion lives.
It's like some
Enough
Evil
of a
Within
blessing
music.
for you.
No. You may have changed the future, but you didn't change our fate.
There are definitely some very jarring choices that happen in the
Yes.
film. Without going into like those details, obviously, what was very important to you to honor in regards to the character Sarah Connor, John, and even seeing Arnold come back?
Well, I think that some of those choices are driven by wanting to honor Linda and Sarah's character. Nobody wants a happy Sarah Connor, right? So in order to fuel that character arc, you have to have a requisite amount of tragedy that provides that rocket fuel, and you also need to make some room for these new characters. You know, it's hard to be the savior if the savior's still hanging around. So anyway,
So
I
John's
think
dead?
you have
I
to
haven't
make
seen
some
the movie yet.
choices. Nobody, from Jim to the writers to all of us, we all thought that this was the way to handle it.
I've always
with the-
hated this
with
guy's
the characters.
tattoos.
And it really is. And Jim and Linda and Arnold all felt the same way. They felt like this was a way to honor the franchise and continue the story in a way that was interesting and dramatic and had a lot of potential.
I'm very excited to be here speaking to you. You're one of the first people I ever wrote about in this career. So this is such an honor.
Thank you.
One of my favorite anecdotes about the Terminator films is that when you agreed to be in Judgment Day,
Yes.
you had a very specific set of needs of what Sarah should be. And you had a lot of input, and I love all of the different quotes
I don't know
Cameron
any of
has
this.
said about how you were like, she needed to be crazy. She needed to have a whole different motivation.
I love Linda so much more now.
In regards to Dark Fate, was it crucial for you to have the same sort of input in order to get you to sign on?
No, because I'm not really a control freak, but I do have my opinions about Sarah Connor, and I kind of do think of myself as the Sarah Connor expert in the room, although Jim would say he's the expert, but that was always our battle. And really, indeed, there was plenty of willingness on their parts to listen to me, to say, who do you think Sarah Connor is? And none of us could really figure out who she is today. We knew that there had been a change of circumstances, so there was the vague outline of a story, but
Arnold
how
looking
that
good, man.
impacted Sarah, because 28 years have gone by, you know, and literally everything was tossed out there. My first idea was like, let's make her fat. So
Oh
that
my God. Did I say it's almost been 20 years? I'm a moron. It's almost been 30 years. I literally just jumped 10 years. I'm so stupid. You can delete your comments now. Just delete the comments. Oh God, it's 92,000 tons. That's 20. And then, I'm a moron.
Immediately dissolve anybody's expectations and then start with a level playing field. But
Smart.
that didn't gain much ground.
Oh.
But you know, you want to have that element of surprise too. You don't want to just be revisiting and doing action that you did 28 years ago. You want sort of a fresh
You don't
approach.
want the same angry. You want a new
so
angry.
we,
Sassy.
talked it out. No real true arguments, but just who is she? Is she a hopeless alcoholic? Has she gone on and tried to return to a normal life? Because it's been 28 years. Is she a school teacher? Is she, and so
In a militia.
everything came up and then was sort of put down, and eventually we sort of carved out a character that was playable.
At what point in the process did you, Jim, and the team land on Danny's story?
It was pretty early on. There was some miscellaneous conversations about, should it be Sarah's granddaughter or something like that. And I was the advocate for no, it should be something new. I didn't want it to feel like there was something genetically destined in the Connor DNA that made it. I really feel like the most interesting thing about these movies is that the choice can be to find this one person who is it's not destiny. They rise to meet destiny. They're put in this situation and they don't break. They stand up and they fight. And I don't want it to be some chosen one story. I want it to feel like it could be you, or it could be him, or it could be me. And I think the minute you start to say it's due to some DNA lineage, that it takes away from that.
Yeah, so alienating. I totally felt like it could be me. I was like, well,
Yeah.
I can see myself.
Yeah, what would you do?
Yeah. And as Sarah Connor, you've been part of this legacy of the idea of the strong female character. Can you talk a bit about sort of what that's meant to you, and in what ways do you think movies are getting women right or still need to work on it,
I think there have always been strong women in Hollywood and strong women portraying strong characters on screen. It's just this is a different kind of strength, a physicality that perhaps women have not always been invited to do. And it turns out that it is really a special passion of mine. I just love to move my body while I'm acting, Good luck keeping me still, And so you only realize your strengths when they're asked of you, I had to rise to the occasion, mostly in the second one. I mean, the first one was kind of ordinary, and there were moments where she really gets everything going and sort of starts to protect Kyle Reese because he's injured, but
the first one she was just a girl, a woman, nothing special, not a warrior, not anything. She was just a typical girl in the 80s or whatever it was.
Certainly it is lovely to see women stepping up and doing a fantastic job, and there have been many of them recently. Charlize Theron in Fury Road, and Gal Gadot, and all of the Marvel female heroines.
Heroines.
So I guess that it's all going to balance out, and that eventually it won't matter whether it's played by a man or a woman, and that's the ideal world, because we all have skills.
And, Leslie, I want to talk about action and the fun stuff. What was important for you in finding distinct styles for the T models in this, as far as fighting?
Oh, well, that's the fun stuff. For me, a lot of times, and you have so much more to work with here because you got Grace also. It's not just humans with guns. You have Grace, who's this augment, and she's super fast and super strong. Yeah, she's a total badass, which gives a whole different flavor to the fight. I thought a lot about game playing, where Arnold's the tank, and Sarah's the general, and she's the strategist. Everybody kind of has their role in it. At the end fight, I think what I was most interested in was Danny, even though she's not front and center, because she's like the quarterback in the pocket, and she's putting her defenders in between her and the bad guy, and each time they come at her, they're dealing damage, they're fucking them up. So that and it's very strategic. I don't think it plays that way necessarily in the movie, but I think there's a real strategy to it that is all Danny's, and you can see her emerging as this, what kind of leader she's going to be. But all of them were it's so fun to design the action for each of them, and it's kind of designed so that it has a whole different flavor. Gabriel's fast, but not as fast as Grace. Gabriel's strong, but not as strong as Arnold. Gabriel's smart, but not as smart as Sarah. And so you kind of, it takes all of them to beat him, but anyway.
When this is all over, I am going to kill you.
I understand.
Hell yeah, dude. Bro, I'm glad they made this movie. I really am, because just everything that happened last, I mean, I didn't really mind Terminator 3. It was what it was. Salvation, I like that movie because it's in the future. It's not the same, right? It's not 1, 2, or 3. It's the future, which made it all the more awesome. Genesis was interesting. It was fun as an idea. It even left with a cliffhanger. I thought that was supposed to have like another one after Genesis, and I actually don't know the story behind that. If there was plans, but they were canceled because the movie sucked for a lot of people. The hologram, seeing, like Skynet was in whatever that term, an infiltrator, I think is what it was, right? Not like a liquid metal, but kind of like how the good guy, Sam or whatever his name was, the guy from Titans, the one that was the human machine. And I think the other one was like that, but it was like, what they did was they made it look like, and that guy looked badass. He just had the look for like a bad dude, and in Salvation. And whether he was made or whatever, he was kind of the representation of what Skynet looked like as a person. Because when Skynet at the end of Genesis was like that kid, and then when it grew up, it was him. And you're like, oh shit, like Skynet had like an identity now, a look. It wasn't just what happened in it wasn't, not Salvation, Genesis. My mistake. When I said Salvation, like the infiltrator from Salvation is kind of what it looked like they did in Genesis. And so when he fucking got John Connor, and I wasn't really sold on that guy as John Connor and a lot of that stuff, but yeah, it was just like they gave him a look. In Salvation, it was the Beatrix Lestrange chick and everyone else pretty much as a hologram. But in Genesis, they gave it an actual description, because the face it had was the face of the person from the future, which means that could have been a thing created. You know what I mean? That could have just been something they made. That could be what he looks like or what it looks like. It was crazy, and I really liked that little touch they gave. They gave it like a very much personal touch to an AI that was just ones and zeros, and I thought that was pretty sick. But unfortunately, that movie didn't really go over well with a lot of people. It was interesting, and it was fun as an action movie, but I'm a huge fan of Terminator and the lore that comes with it. I'm digging this. I'm glad they made it. And yeah, with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. See whatever video I'm doing next. Later, guys.